Hi, I'm Tom Jones, and welcome to another one of my free art lessons. I want to take a moment today and talk to you a little bit about keeping color in the landscape. It's important because if your color in your landscape, as an example, in the grass area, were all just one color green, in the road maybe all one color sienna, it's kind of boring. So I'm going to show you a way of taking and putting some color in the landscape and making it more interesting. And if you look around, you're going to find in the landscape a lot of color. It's fun to ride through the countryside and see all the different colors in the landscape. So that's what we're going to show you this morning. Let me take my 1-inch brush, and I'm going to just throw some color on the paper. I'm going to start with maybe a little bit of my, in this case, a lemon yellow. And we'll just splatter a little bit of color. And another way of doing it is to take these little spray bottles. These particular spray bottles, I can actually put out dots of color. I'll take another one. This happens to be a yellow, but this one happens to be a light green. And let me show you how I can just throw a little bit of green into the landscape doing the same thing. These particular spray bottles, they actually shoot dots, not a mist. So those are great to use in this particular case. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over and I'm going to get a little bit of my yellow ochre color, and I'm going to use a little bit of that. Then I'm going to get a little bit of my sienna color, my burnt sienna, and then we'll just throw a little bit of that out here. So we just lay in a little bit more of this color. Now look closely at this. You can see the interest now already starting. I've got some yellow going on, a little bit of green going on, now a little bit of combination of ochre, a little combination of burnt sienna. Let me continue on. You can take and throw the color in, you can splatter it or whatever you want to do. In this case, if I get a little color up here, I can just take and dab it with my tissue. So what I want to do is I want to continue on now. I'll even pick up, in this case, a little bit of my rose color. And I'm going to put a little bit of that in. And I may just mix a little bit of ultramarine blue deep to it, just to create another look. See how interesting it is to have this beautiful color? Remember, there's a lot of violet in the landscape. When I take the rose color and mix some ultramarine blue deep to it, I get this beautiful lavender color. Let me clean out my brush and continue on. This is a lot of fun, so stay with me on this. I'm going to show you how you can create a very interesting landscape by having a variety of color going on. Let me come back to my ochre and so forth in the area of the road. We'll put a little bit of that color. I even have some of that color over here in a spray bottle. So I can take the spray bottle and do the same thing. I can just shoot some dots. Let me warm it up. Shoot some dots and get all that texture going on here in the road area. See that? See how much fun that is? Now we'll continue on again. I'll take a little bit of this color, and I'll have a little bit of green into the road area. That's possible as well. Again, you want the variety of color. It will actually have an entertainment value to your particular painting. It will be more interesting than if it's just brown road, green grass. So we think of it as an entertainment value. You want to entertain the viewer, and that's what we're looking at doing here. Let me continue on quickly now. We'll just throw a little more of this sienna and ochre color out here. Don't worry about the lines. Don't worry about the edge of the road at this point. Don't worry about the edge of the grass. Let's just put down the color. We'll identify those at a later time. But this is how interesting it can be just by having this variety of color going on in the landscape. I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to just dry this area. Then I'm going to come back and show you how we define the edge of the road, put in a couple of fence posts, and that's a quick study for you. Now, the painting is completely dry. Just finished drying it with a hairdryer. And when you touch it, it should be room temperature or warm. Then you know it's dry. If it still feels cool, then you want to continue drying it. For this illustration, I want to make sure that this is completely dry because I don't want color bleeding from the road over into the grass area. So let me continue on at this point. I'll set my hairdryer aside, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I want to take a smaller brush. I'm going to go down to a 3/4 inch brush. And I'm going to take and mix up a little bit of, some of my burnt sienna. I'll mix up a little bit of my yellow ochre, and I'll get a sort of a road color in this case. Now I'm going to come down to the edge of the road, and I'm going to just put a little bit of a soft edge to this road here. When I say soft edge, I'm laying down color. Watch what I do. I'm going to clean out my brush. With just water, I'm going to soften one of the edges on the roadside. Where the grass is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little spray bottle. It's a dot bottle again, and I'm going to just put a little bit of water at the edge of where the color is. It will diffuse some of that edge, so I'll have a hard edge and a soft edge at the edge of the road. I'll do it again over here. So now I'm establishing where the edge of the road is and where the grass area is. Let me continue on for a moment. I'm going to come down here and just continue with the edge of the road, like so. I'll do the same on the other side, except over here on this side, instead of putting the color on the road, I'm going to put the color on the edge of the grass. On this side, I put the color on the road, showing the edge of the grass here. Over here, I'll put the color on the side of the grass, doing just the opposite, showing the edge of the road here. I hope you followed that. But let me try this. I'm going to take a little green on my brush. It's a light green. I'll mix another green in there just so we have a variety. And then what I'll do is I'll establish where the edge of the road is. I can still see my pencil line there under the color, because we're working with a transparent medium now in watercolor. And then I'm going to have the edge of the road established by putting the area over on the grass. So this side I painted on the grass to establish the edge of the road again. Over here I painted the edge of the road to establish over here the edge of the grass. Okay. So now I've got the colors down. I may have to dry this one more time, but I'll put a couple of little areas where I have some ruts in the road, you know, where this is a dirt road, so we're going to establish some ruts in the road to establish that trucks and cars do go up and down this particular road. Now, this is an old country road. So now I hope you can see that. I'm going to take just a moment, and I want to put in just a little more color in the area of the grass over here. Remember, this is basically a little lesson plan on creating or keeping color in the landscape. So I'm coming back to my sienna and my ochre colors. And rather than just put green now in the grass, I'm going to put a little more of this ochre over here to make a more interesting color arrangement for our grass area. Much more interesting than just all green. Lots of color in the landscape. When you're out next time in the landscape, take the opportunity and really look at the landscape and see all the beautiful colors that are in the landscape itself. Okay? All right, now I need to dry this again, and I'm going to put a couple of ruts in the road, and that establishes this very easy plan, lesson plan for you on how to do color in the landscape or to keep color in that landscape. So let me go ahead and dry this, and I'll be right back. Now, it's completely dry. It didn't take as long to dry it this time. Now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and establish some ruts in the road here. I'm going to go down to my half-inch brush. This is a half-inch flat brush. We'll take a little bit of our rose color, a little bit of our ultramarine blue deep, and I'll add just a touch of our sienna, burnt sienna, and we'll get a nice rich brown color. And I'm going to come in, I'm going to take a tissue, and I'm simply going to come in and establish some furrows or ruts in the road where the vehicles have traveled down this road. So just very simply, and then I'll take my finger and just soften this edge further back. You wouldn't see that much detail. We'll do the same thing on the opposite side of the road. I'll come in and do the exact same thing over here. This time I'm going to take and just lift out some color. So I just patted where I put the color, and now I'll come in and I'll go ahead and lift out color, and you can see where I have a slight variation of where I've lifted color. On this side, I'll do it one more time with just a little more water. On this side, you can see where I establish it with paint. Now I'll come back and I'll do one area over here with paint as well. Let me take a little bit of an area here. So this way I have a little variety of choice to look at. I've got an area where it's a little lighter. In this area, the ruts are a little darker in this case. It just is a entertainment value. We can do the same thing on this side, but I don't think it's necessary. I think we've established the fact that we do have some ruts in this road. Now, there's one thing that I do want to do. I want to come in and I want to take a moment and pull this frisket off, because I have some frisket on the paper that I just splattered on. And you've seen me use frisket in one of my other free art lessons, but I've splattered it on. See where I put that frisket? You'll notice I preserved the white space. Can you see that right there? And all I'm going to do, I don't need to take all of it off for this particular lesson plan, but look what I've done. I've established a little bit of highlight to the area of the grass. Now all I need to do is I can come in again, and I can take maybe a little bit of my green or yellow, and I can come in and just tone down some of those spots so that they don't jump out at you, but leave some of them white. Now it gives the illusion that there's some highlights. So look at all the variety going on here. In the road, I've got some sienna, I got some ochre, I've got some green, I've got some violet. In the landscape, same thing. A variety of color going on to make the scene more interesting. Just to establish one other thing, I'm going to take my number 8 round brush, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to put in just one fence post. That's all we need to do. Just one fence post, and this will sort of establish the idea that there's a fence post here. Let me get a little more sienna and add to that color. There's a fence post here, and it kind of gives you a little bit more of the perspective of looking down the road. There we go. Now there would be more fence posts, but this gives you an example of how to establish and keep color in the landscape. This concludes this particular lesson plan. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you'll continue putting color in your landscape. Thank you.